Of the Informatica. So I think this is second time and someone is for first time. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and ask me. So today's topic is unlocking funding opportunities that we aim for. We offering the financial solutions for small business owner and for developing your business. So today's agenda. So first introduce and about fundraising and tips for successful fundraising and Q&A questions. Totally, we are aim for the 45 minutes around. So let me introduce ourselves as a B Informatica. So our missions try to enable individuals with the dreams to efficiency access the financial service and community and without any good credit score. So let me introduce myself. I'm Japanese. I graduated university, then started the financial sector, working there for almost 11 years. Also, when I'm a student, I'm joining the NGO activity in Vietnam and involved with the street children's shelter program and find to be independent or that any beings, human beings, and need to work and to raise funds and also need the community to help each other or grow each other. And after 11 years, and I graduate higher study, then to migrate to Bangladesh and to study more about the traditional microfinance in BRAC, BRAC. That's the world's biggest microfinance institution. Then, so I learned group lending, also the how to creating the credit from zero. So those experiences to push me to start this own startup. And so 2019, I came here and to find this B Informatica with my co-founders. The target is female entrepreneurs to grow their business. So particularly B Informatica focus the entrepreneur, small business owner, and to access the finance more easily. So today's topic also how to fundraising and what's the tips for that fundraising. Okay, let's start. So do you know the variety of funds? As the basic one, the debt and equity, and also sometimes government offering for subsidies. So those are the typical three basic varieties of the finance. So comparing these three varieties, and there are some pros and cons. So basically the debt, and you have to return for the provider. So typically you can imagine for the banks and usually for low risk and low return. And so that's the very short-term funding. As for equity, compare with the debt, it is high risk and high return as an issuer, also the issuer of the share. So you can get the cash, but you need to offer your share. So first of all, you need to establish your company as a limited company can enable to issue your share to anybody for the investors, but the share is limited. So you only have limited number of shares. So you need to very carefully to calculate how much and how frequently, how fast to issue the equity share. But if you too much issuing your equity, you'll be die because you lose your decision-making opportunities. So this is like a games. So then third one is subsidy, and subsidy usually provided by the government. So later on, we will explain what kind of subsidy we have And this is almost free, so you don't need to return. And this is usually for the taxpayers, it's a citizenship you have, and you can have an opportunity to get the subsidy usually. So there are some pros and cons, and so depends on occasion, depends on your situation. You carefully to choose which finance method you should access. So you can access debt, you can access equity, you can access subsidies. So you need to carefully to compare to find out it depends on your decision making. So let's start from the debt. We usually call the business loan. So the provider, the typical one is banks and also money lenders and sometimes P2P lenders. So as you can imagine, the banks, and so this is most traditional financial institution, but the requirement is pretty high. So a lot of documents and a lot of the process and a lot of the requirement. So usually require the collateral or guarantors, also 3 years working experience and a lot. So you might to access and you can experience how legitimate of that process. So the money lenders usually have more flexibility than banks, but usually they charge more higher interest and fewer requirements. So it's more convenient than banks especially for the small business owner, but they be careful. So they're gonna charge for the higher interest, but it has a reason and to need to cover for the risks. And someone might know the P2P lenders. This is the new institutions as a crowdfunding debt financing crowdfunding. So I think 2016 in Malaysia, the government started this type of institution. The typical one is the funding societies, Fundastic and Capital Bay and MicroLeap. So they are very good. So this is a platform, the connecting between the investors and also the small business owners. So let's go on the equity. So equity called shareholders. So if you have a company, the limited company, you can have a right into issuing the share to get equity funds. So typical institutions, the venture capital they called, this is institutional investors. So they have some strategy and organization and manuals, and there are some layers, have 2 layers usually, the decision-making process. So it's quite strict, how can I say, it's quite challenging to access the venture capital because a lot of their requirements, also their perspective, also the category, also some growth rates, they have a certain type of the target. As another investor is angel investor, they are more small and flexible because they are individual. So anyone can be the angel investors, anyone who has will and who has money, and anybody can do. As a professional or in amateur, anyone can do the angel investor. So I recommend that if you are a small business owner, then if you have a will, then if you have a good business idea, it might be easy to access angel investors. Also here in equity, also we have a crowdfunding platform. They call the ECF. It's the same of the 2016, the Malaysian government creating the law, then to creating the platform, and this is also peer-to-peer, means investors who are venture capital or angel investors, also to connect it, matching with the small business. So you can also apply for the ECF, and then you can see any potential investor through the ECF platform. So, but the equity is more, the hurdle is high because you have to be a registered as a company first. Also, usually the equity shareholder also request for the return, but usually the equity has a longer return than debt. So it might be more 3 years, 5 years, sometimes 9 years. But finally they need, similar to debt, they requested for the how can I say, the return for after some time years. Or more venture capital is more requested for IPO. The initial public offering means finally to be a public sector, public company. So this is the final goal of the venture capital. So final variety is a subsidy and the government-backed program. So as you know, the Malaysian government also have some type of the subsidy. For example, the wage subsidy program, especially under MCO, they try to help the micro SMEs to providing the 600 ringgit per employees. So those are the subsidy. Also, another program is called the GKP. It's also another grant for the initiated financial support for micro SMEs, especially under MCO. They provided the 1,000 ringgit per employees. Also, another SME digitalization grant, also targeting micro SMEs. They provided 5,000 ringgit for the company as digitalizing business. So those are the very temporary packages. So we don't know when they have that kind of, depends on the timing, then depends on the budget, depends on the purpose. So it's not permanent program. So they have, sometimes if you are lucky, then you can be eligible to apply this subsidy. So three things I have, a pro and con, and so please research and to find out and to please choose something which very available for you. That's very important for the first step. So being Informatica, we are actually the money lender. We offer in the business loan as a debt. So as I already told, and so the money lender is compared with the banks, relatively flexible compared with the banks. So especially criteria, we have more small than short criteria, and also loan amounts like gradual. The small size because we focus on the micro SMEs, and interest, of course, the higher than banks, because we need to cover for a lot of risks than the banks. And also the loan size is smaller than the banks. Also, approval process is shorter. And usually it takes 3 to 5 days. So overall, the general accessibility is pretty high compared with other money lenders or banks, because whole process can be digitalizing. Also, we try to be supporting for the micro SMEs. So we always to discuss and to find out the better way to shorten the terms, also try to less documentation. So I hope the Be Informatica to be a financial partner for the micro SMEs. So overall, this is the first agenda for about the fundraising. So until here, anybody who have any questions or any request, or is it okay? All right. So let's proceed for the next agenda. For next one is tips for the successful fundraising. Okay, so today we use the two cases for the first cases for the bad cases who have a challenge for the approaching the application process. The maybe case 2 might be more happier case and to very successful case. So we need to learn what the difference is between this good case and this bad case. Okay, let's start. The case 1, there are the ladies, Sarah, the 32 years old, she's CEO. So so she's a business owner, running the multiple boutique in the shopping malls. The fact is she has the history of overdue payments from the previous bank loan. Also, her bank balance is unstable. So she has a relatively bad credit record. So that's her challenges. So this is her case, is why she stuck with the process is her problem is on the CTOS credit record of the previous one. So she had the late payment, also outstanding debt, and non-performing loan. So CTOS shows this kind of previous historical record, the credit record. So if you have the bad credit record, so CTOS reports show us. So you need to have some solutions. So you can also access the CTOS, and if you, you can access your own for free. So please review the credit report. And if you find in the previous record is not so good, you need to build the positive credit history. How to do this is, you need to sort it out of the rest of the loan if you still remaining loans, and you need to be punctual to repay back and to creating the positive credit history. Also, when you apply a loan for us, you need to address outstanding debt precisely, and that will help us to calculate how much loan we can offer. Then if you tell a lie, that's a problem, and so we might know the bad credit in the CTOS credit report in the end. So you cannot hide. So it will be better to confess by yourself and to report. Then we can discuss together to find out the proper amount of loan together. So this request for the honestness, also you can make an effort to creating the positive credit history. You can change the CTOS credit record to better way. Also, the bank statement is another report. Usually the bank statements shows your balance in your bank accounts, the income, also outcome, also the buffer. So you can also show in your bank statements, and you can look at this kind of cash flow. So we will usually check a low balance and less number of business transactions, suspicious transactions, irregular income. Those are some concern for us. So how to improve these bank statements? Here, the solution is here. We recommend that it be better to separate for your business and personal accounts, because of usually the business income and expenses should be separated. This is for the basic manner as a business owner, and it will be better to not mix it. Your personal purpose and our business purpose is the first step. And also the important is maintain the consistent cash flow. Means you need to control the expenses, and also you need to know how your income flow. So it might be the small business income flow is not so regular. So means you need to know in a monthly, how much cash income you might have, or some business generate income not monthly or every 2 months or every 3 months. So it depends on the business. So you have to know how frequently you generate income, and what is your how the fixed cost or the variable cost, and so it is a balance. So important things, maintain the consistent cash flow. So we focus on this point. So the last lecture, if someone joined, you might be remember. So we usually share the Excel sheet to supporting for your bookkeeping. The bookkeeping will help you to start to record for your income and expenses to you might be know your regular cash flow. So this is like a training, so daily training. Then after several months, usually it takes 6 months to know that your basic income and expenses. Then you don't need, you can very well manage for your cash flow. Also, third one is insufficient documentation. This is also the careful points. So documentation includes the business identity, also the personal identification, both. For example, as for business, including SSM copy, right? So in SSM, there are very basic business registration information about when the founder, who is the founder, also how much is the initial capital, who is the corporate secretary, where is the address. Those are the very typical and the most basic and important information as for we know how to know your business. So SSM is so important. Also the individual things, we request for the utility bill, for your office address, also home address. We usually check the current address in an emergency case. Also the contact number of yourself, also your emergency. We usually request for the 2 contact number about any emergency. So overall, during this the application process, we requested for those kind of the documentation, both for business and individual. Then combining all documentation, then we finally to check for appropriate borrower or not. So also, finally, we make the interview opportunity. So we need to check for the further business information. So some information is not in the document. So through the interview, the verbal interview, that we request the further in detail the business information about the customer or about the sales or about the risk management. So those also will help us and to make a decision for the borrowers. So please be careful. Then for first documentation, also this the non-documentation, the verbal information also will help us a lot. So we seek for the collaboration to disclose of your business and your individual about the money. And so those will help us for the process. Okay, so this is the case 2. This is a successful case. And for the David, and 28 years old, so he ran a small business, small restaurant. So in his case, it's actually the opposite. So he has a good PL sheet and BS sheet. It means he has financial statements so he has a lot of more accounting related documentation a lot. And also it shows he has established credit history, means he have a good CTOS report and he's already cleaned up for the credit history. So those are the typical case for the success, because we can very relieve to proceed it for the application process. So let's summarize up for today's lessons. So we check these 3 things for the application process. First of all, for the CTOS credit report, to check late previous credit score to shows very clearly in the CTOS record. So please be checked by yourself before applying loans. Then if you find any fraud, then you can be changed. You can improve the CTOS credit record by yourself. And bank statement. So this is the record from the bank accounts. So you can also check. We usually request for the 6-month bank statements. So you can check beforehand, and then you need to know your generate income and generate expenses. So you need to have ample of the cash flow, some certain cash flow, need to be profitable, means that need to be not a minus, to be a certain cash. That's the very positive point for us and for assessment process. And then finally, the documentation, which we mentioned, the including for as for business and as for individuals. And so you need to prove for the accurate registration information as for the SSM. Also the individual, we request for the utility bills and also your emergency contact. That's also will help us in emergency situation. Always for anybody, you might have faced for emergency. If you run the business and the business is not so stable, so next month, nobody knows what happens. I also run the business in this, so I also feel the same feelings. And in next month, we don't know what's happened to us. So that's why we need to be prepared for the in emergency situation. So you need to disclose for, you need to help us and to be prepared for the in emergency situation. Also, another summary is you always have a solution. In the past, if you have a bad credit score or bad bank statement, no issues. You have some certain time, maybe usually 6 months at least, to can be improved for those the previous record. So don't be worried about. Then if you run the business, you can be improved for that credit score. Also bank statement, also the documentation. So if you have any queries or if you have any concerns, please consult it with us, and we can explain in detail and how to improve of this kind of the documentation. It will help you to apply for our business loan, and then it makes us help us for more quick and then more efficient the application process. Okay, so those are the contents. Thank you so much for listening. So let's proceed for the Q&A sessions. Chris, please handle.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Fumiko, for this wonderful webinar session. Thank you guys very much for listening. So guys, please, now we are open to Q&A. Any questions regarding this content for today, please ask Ms. Fumiko and she'll help you clear. We have, I think, Ms. Gayatri, then Ms. Alia, Mr. Tain, I think, yeah. So please go ahead and ask any questions, or if not even related to this webinar, no problem. Anything related to this content, not exactly from this webinar, please go ahead and ask. Ms. Fumiko will help you. Is everyone there? Any questions, guys? Yes, Miss Alia.
Yes, I was wondering about the just a second. So if it's a different case study for those who wanted to start out fresh on a new company, so there's a lot of regulations, a lot of paperwork as well. And there are times I think that we need to do a bit of a research, what would be the best solution or the best decision making in terms of starting a new company fresh from start. So a lot of the times I think that some of the business owner, when they wanted to start up, they are a bit in dilemma whether they should ask for money lenders and banks. And so if there are other options, for example, like in the case of the company is going to grow, whether asking from an angel investor or venture capital would be a good idea or not. What would be your advice on this?
Yeah, anybody, it's a first, when you start, you have a very lack of information and it's not easy to make decisions. So maybe even me also, I try to start this business, honestly, money lending. So as my first company, so I know this business, we require a lot of money because we are money lender. So we need to fundraise the money first, then lend the money. So always, that's why, I mean, in my case, I choose the equity rather than debt because the equity have more high risk and a high return and the big amounts and compare with the debt. So in my case, the business size might be bigger. So I have no doubt to choose the equity. So I started to gather the information to find out the angel investor because VC has more higher step. So suddenly we cannot go to the VC. I know. Simultaneously, I started to gathering the information for both the angel investors and VCs. Even I tried gathering information in Malaysia as well. But finally, I decided to go to Japan because I'm Japanese and it's easy to communicate with the Japanese people. But in your case, of course, definitely, you need to talk to the Malaysian investors and a lot of angel investors and VCs also there. So it depends on your business type. If run the small business as the run casually or near your house, and in this case, you can choose debt also. But debt, I think when you just start the business, you cannot go to banks. As I explained before, the banks require at least 3 years working experience and 2 years audit report. So you cannot access the bank's loan for 3 years. So usually you need to go the money lenders if you choose the debt, and depends on money lenders. Some are the open mind and to discuss this kind of things, or someone you don't have any person to discuss, and you just how can I say mechanically to just application process, and it's really feel scared maybe. So I hope it will be better to find someone who have experience to apply loan, or if your business is bigger size, it might be better to access the equity, and you might be find the angel investor first, then gradually step up to the VC if your business size become grower. So each finance have a step. So starting from the small size and to go to the bigger size and the more organization starting from the individual, then to go the more institutional lender or the equity issuers. So you might know if you have any experience and you have a more gathering more information, then you can be more stronger. So it is like a process. You need the activities and you need to gather the information. So I think in the business community, I always find a partner who have more experience than us. Then it may be better to ask your business colleague or business relationship, business group always you can find someone who have more experience than you, then they might guide you. That's my belief. And please ask me. I have experience to access the debt from the banks and also the equity from the venture capital both. And so please ask me as well.
Any further questions, Miss Alia, from your side?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the wonderful question. Hope it clears your doubts. Anyone else? Yes, we are still open for, I think we can go for one more question, one or two more questions. Anyone? Mr. Tien? Miss Gayatri? Okay, so I guess be in touch in this. I see. So Mr. How can we pronounce the name? Mr. Tien or Mr. Ten?
Please.
Okay, so he says here that prefer to be in touch in person. So are you around KL area, Mr. Ten?
No, at the moment, somewhere in northern part, Kulim.
I see, northern part. Okay, then Penang, is it?
Kulim.
Kulim, I see, Kedah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, great. So yes, Mr. Ten. So if you have any doubts, you can ask now, Miss Fumiko's here. I mean, of course, because we are based in KL here, and if we have any opportunity to come up to the north, definitely we'll pay you a visit soon. But if you have, meanwhile, any doubts you have, you'd like to clarify. I mean, not necessarily need to be related to this webinar, exactly the contents. Anything related to this topic or any other doubts that you'd like to clear in business related, you can ask Miss Fumiko here.
Sure. Which part of KL?
We are at Bangsa South, Kerinci.
Okay, okay.
Yes, Mr. Ten. So are you familiar with the KL area around here?
Yeah, I am. It's just because I came back here and I'm down with COVID and my whole what do you call some other family issues as well. So that's the thing. I'm currently putting back here actually.
I see.
Yeah, so I'm not sure when I'll be coming back to KL.
I see.
Yeah,
So,
I'll be in touch if I'll be dropping over to your office if I happen to be in KL. But in the meantime, please keep in touch. Probably I would like to liaise in person.
sure, that sounds like a plan, Mr. Ten. So, so sorry to hear about your situation. Hopefully it gets fine. Wishing you a speedy recovery and your whole family. Take care of yourself. And yes,
you.
let's keep in touch. And anytime you like any question or you'd like to know anything, we have our WhatsApp number. Let's keep in touch. We are always here to help you clear any doubts, right?
Thank you.
Anything regarding business, we also have reoccurring webinars every 2 weeks once. So this is our third webinar actually. So we'll have our next webinar soon. I hope to see you there. And
Sure.
anytime you come to KL, just drop us a message and we can arrange for a meeting in our office.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tin. I appreciate.
Right.
So I think there's no much question, Ms. Fumiko. We can proceed.
Sure. Okay. I think finally today we can have promotion for the next topic. Yes. Let me share the screen. It's the okay. So finally, okay, we will introduce shortly about our service. So we are Informatica offering business loan at a small size. So we have licensed company under KPKT. We have money lending license, and also we usually our business loan size starting from 10K up to maximum 50K. I hope so you can start from the small size like a 10K loan, then gradually to step up to the bigger size. Also, we usually using the psychometric test. This is like our uniqueness. And not only the bank statement or financial information, but also we use your psychological questions into our credit score. So that's very, very unique point. We check your ability or will to how to repay back your loan. So this will score will help you to increment your credit score. So I hope the small business owner will easy to access our credit score. That means the finance. So we have a simple step. So please register, creating your account in our website. Then fill into the detailed information, also the submitted requirement documents, which we mentioned today. Also, we start processing. Once we call the interview, please join the interview for 20 minutes. Then overall, we assess all the information. Then we make some decisions for 3 to 5 working days. So finally, you finally get the loan within weeks. So this is much shorter than banking process, and it will take 3 months, I guess. So please feel free to apply loan. If you need the finance, please consider about the Informatica, as maybe we are the financial partner for your small business. So finally, we can addressing for the, sorry, I need to make it bigger. Yeah. So the next webinar will be held on the 28th of June, means 2 weeks later. Sorry. The topic is how securing and managing your small business loan. So today we topic about the process, application process, but the next topic will be after we disperse loan, you get in the loan, you need to repay back on monthly. So next topic will be how to manage this repayment process. So repayment process will loan usually 12 months, 1 year. It's a long journey. So we and you and might be need the communications to securing how to regularize for your repayment. This is like needs some tips as well. So we're gonna addressing for this kind of the different tips for repayment schedule, repayment process. Those are the next topics. So please join us and feel free to discuss with us. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Fumiko. Really appreciate your time you give to us. And thank you very much, participants. Really appreciate your time that you give us. And yes, as mentioned in the early of the webinar, so we'll be sending you a survey link, right? Later, personally, we'll be sending you guys. Then hopefully you guys can help us do the survey. So this will help us to improve our webinar contents, because at the end of the day, we are going to help each other. These webinars are going to be for all of us, right? We want to make this better for you so that we learn together and we can help you as much as possible. Thank you for all the participants, Mr. Tain, Ms. Alia, Ms. Gayatri, Shamala, Saki, Misaki, Muhammad Fidaus, Anissa, and Ishikami Kana. Thank you very much for your time. Hope to see you on the next webinar very soon in 2 weeks' time. We will send you the survey once again. So please help us do the survey. It will be very helpful to us. Yes, Ms. Alia.
I think the next event is going to be at the end of this month, right? 28th?
Yes.
Yep, right. 28th June.
Wednesday, no?
I'll try to make myself
Great.
present. Okay.
Sure. And hope you guys can share to your networks as well, because this is not necessary just for business owners. I mean, in order just to learn about business knowledge, everything you can share with your networks, your family, friends. It'll be really helpful for them for the future, I believe. So thank you once again, everyone. So if everyone can on your camera, we can have a group photo.
That's a good idea.
Just a single shot is fine.